Thank you for tuning in to Curated Conversations with GRAAHI. This is a very, very special episode that we will be breaking into two parts for you all. For everybody that's here with us, we are going through, each department and shining light on the faces behind the departments and what we're looking to do here in 2023. So today is a very special episode.
Very, very special. This is getting broken into two parts here. Part one will be just a little overview of GRAAHI, missions, values, all the good stuff, all the essential information we need. We'll dive into a little bit with Andrae Ivy, our Director of Research, who will go into our Health Equity Index and kind of explain a little bit about the importance of that. And then right after, we'll be joined by Miguel Gonzales, who is our Program Coordinator for our Health and Wellness Program. And that kind of wraps up part one. Part two, we'll dive into pathways. We'll get the pleasure of speaking with Stacey Baker. You'll see us again.
Yes,
the Health Initiative and Community Engagement Department, as well as our community outreach. So very multifaceted episode, lots of good content, a lot of good information, just to get to know everything about GRAAHI, the people, the faces, all that good stuff. But who are we speaking with right now?
Today's a very special day, everybody. This woman is in the community all the time, advocating for the things that she believes in, which naturally aligns with GRAAHI's mission, which she's going to get into. Today we have our Chief Executive Officer, our CEO, Vanessa Greene. Welcome. How are you feeling today, Vanessa?
I'm great.
You feeling great?
I'm feeling good.
Well, we're excited to have you to kick off this podcast and show the many faces behind GRAAHI. A lot of the faces that are in the building today would not be here if you did not continue building out the vision and mission that GRAAHI has today. But we want to kind of dig into a little bit of your background of, what were you doing before GRAAHI that kind of led you into this space?
Okay, great. Well, first of all, yes, I am having a great day. It's always a good day to be able to talk about our great organization, the Grand Rapids African American Health Institute, also known as GRAAHI. So to kick it off with my background, just a little bit about my background. Well, I actually grew up in a little town called Grenada, Mississippi in the rural South. And so in the South, you can only imagine, particularly in the early 60s, mid-60s, there were a lot of things going on, around the civil rights movement. And so I was exposed to a lot of inequities and disparities within the African-American community at a really young age. And so it's always been something that I've been, intricately exposed to and aware of, which I think really has driven my life interest and commitment to service and supporting underrepresented and disadvantaged type populations. And so I think it was rooted in the kind of exposure and things that I saw in the South during the civil rights movement. And much of that was also health related, even in my own family, there were, aunts dying during childbirth.
Right.
Cousins, being raised without their mom because of that. And so you can't grow up and experience those kinds of things without having a passion for it.
Right.
And so then just kind of fast tracking forward, I ended up getting my undergraduate degree from Grand Valley State University.
GV, say
Yes,
there. Let's
shout
do
out.
it.
Give them a shout out,
Show them some love to our GV family out there.
And I had a really great experience at Grand Valley State University, and I majored in criminal justice and I minored in psychology because, again, I wanted to be in a field where I would have direct, impact on the lives of others. And my first job out of Grand Valley was actually working for a for-profit organization working with people with disabilities.
Wow.
And I learned so much from them. So often when we're in service and helping fields, people really are grateful for what we do for them, but they have no impact on the impact they have on us. Because we learn so much from people that we serve and from people that we help. And so developed a strong relationship with a lot of the clients that I had for this organization. It was called Work Skills Corporation, and it was actually founded by a former Vietnam veteran who was injured and, and had a disability himself.
Wow.
And so based upon his disability, then he started this organization to help others who had disabilities. And that was a foundational experience for me, to have an opportunity to work with an organization so dynamic, as the start of my career. And they actually had a supervisory position opened within about 6 months after I started, and I didn't think that I was qualified for the position, so I didn't apply for the position.
Right.
But my supervisor and her supervisor, they came back like later and asked me to apply for the supervisory position. I did. I was then promoted, and they were phenomenal mentors. These two women, they were phenomenal leaders, but they were also phenomenal mentors. And so, and during those days, I mean, I'm fresh out of undergraduate. I have this new position. Now I'm a supervisor, so I had a lot of insecurities about it. Yeah. But fortunately, people can always see things in you that you don't see in yourselves. And so they saw that leadership potential in me, and then they nurtured it, and they built on it. And when I was working on my master's degree, I ran across a quote from an Arthur Ellis Coles, and he said, "The leaders are not born; they're trained and they're nurtured." Oh, wow. And so I often have to give a shout out to them also for nurturing my leadership at such a young age, and getting me on a foundation, to become a leader and so forth.
I want to stop you there and kind of bring highlight some things that you brought up there. One is the full circle moment of you growing up, being exposed to your environment in the South, kind of led you into a space of, I want to do something for my community, saying the lack thereof in your community. And then for the gentleman that set up his organization that you work under, came from essentially that same type of a framework, right? From something he experienced to where he wants to create that need. So I can tell that's well ingrained in you to utilize the things that are around you and figure out, what's your birthright. You talk about birthright, and I want you to kind of expand on that. But you were living your birthright in real time. That's led you to here right now. So I'm glad that you kind of painted a picture for everybody to see, like, each thing that you go through is divine timing. Right. You have those mentors that we have now in Vanessa that were also poured into early on, and willing to accept that and look at it to say, okay, this is what's going to fuel me going forward. Can you talk a little bit more about what birthright is? You say it a lot to Calvin and I, and everybody else in the organization, and it gets us from a space of, I don't know if I can or if I should or if I'm the right person, to I'm ready to go. What you know what I'm saying? I feel like charged up is my word to use.
Yeah, the concept does what it does for, at least when I hear it, is it shakes a lot of the insecurities I have, in myself. So understanding that birthright and having that real understanding of that really shakes a lot of those insecurities for me. So yeah, we would love for you to dive into a little of your understanding of birthrights and how it's kind of
how important that is.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think that I was just speaking into, insecurities that I had when I was approached to be a leader, to be a supervisor. And I think a lot of it is rooted in, like African-American cultures and cultures that really teaches us to be like humble and not to be like prideful and so forth. And so, and there's a reason for that, right? I mean, like during slavery, parents had to like protect their kids. Like, no, she's not, you don't want her, and so, so then it kind of, transformed into not really affirming like communities and affirming children, because we want to protect them. And we also don't want to like present ourselves as like we are, better than other people. But what get lost in that then is the challenges that people face on a daily basis, and how important those affirmations are, how important it is for us to understand like our full identity, as human beings, like I'm gonna go spiritual here for a minute because we
can't
talk about birthright.
Church has started, baby.
But but we're born in the image and likeness of God, and He said that I will withhold no good thing from you. And so, but often the world tells us that we're not good enough. And so, when I talk about birthright, I talk about our birthright as that we are born in the image and and glory of God, and He's created us like for greatness. We're destined to be great, and so to be able to live in that and to understand that that's our birthright, understanding that we are the child of the ultimate King,
100%.
and so and to be able to walk in that. And one of the things that I share with people often is that when I started kind of coming full circle in terms of my confidence, and my identity, I had read this poem, and it was by Marianne Williamson. It's called Our Deepest Fear. And people are pretty familiar with that. They read it on one of the basketball movies and so forth.
Carter.
But
it was Coach Carter.
Coach Carter, yes.
I had no idea which movie it was, so I'm glad you picked that up.
So, but I love sharing it because it really talks about the identity of of who we are, and that we were born to let our light shine, and thinking and shrinking small to make other people comfortable is, it doesn't enlighten the world. And so our birthright is to be the salt of the earth, right?
Yes,
and to let our light shine so that other people can see, the brightness and the light within them. And so when I talk about birthright, I talk about it in that context of understanding that we were born to be great.
Yes. So when we're talking about letting our light shines in these spaces that we're in and the importance of that, why is it so important for us to be aware of our birthright in that process of making sure that we know and we're self-aware? But then you have to go into, the execution of it. Why is it so important for us to act on our birthright?
Right. I think that, so often, even in the current generations, there are so many labels, right? People are labeled for everything,
everything.
The entitled generation, or the
Gen Z, millennials. Right. It's a sub-label to every category, right?
Yeah. Well, labels can really hinder people from really living into their greatness or living into their purpose. And and we weren't created and born to just take up space on this earth, right? We were created because God planted something in us that only we could do, right? And so we all have a special gift. We all have a special talent. But if we've been abused by labels in language and so forth, then it's often very difficult for us to find our purpose. It's hard for us to find our passion. It's hard for us to find how we are, we can contribute. And so, but when we understand our birthright, then we understand that who created us and how He created us, again, in our image. Yep. And so when we understand that, then it gives us the power, to tap into those gifts and those talents and that purpose in which we were created. And so understanding your birthright is really just changing, language, things like arrogant.
Gotcha.
Just kind of transforming some of the messages that makes people want to shrink. Another thing is living into our birthright and living into our greatness, it's pursuing our greatness. It's not for people to edify us. It's not to, to esteem or to put anyone on a pedestal. But living into our birthright and living into our greatness is all about serving our communities. And so I want to be great. I want to be skilled. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to be resourceful, because everything that I acquire, then it empowers me to serve my community better. And so it's never for Vanessa to get more attention. I don't need attention. What I need is to change these disparities in the African American community.
Exactly.
Just to contribute to that. And so, but if I don't empower myself with knowledge and with skills and with information and so forth, then I'm limited on how I can be a resource. And so all of the things that we are trying to achieve in terms of knowledge, in terms of, networks, in terms of resources, it should all be driven based upon our interest in impacting and supporting our communities.
Gotcha. That's well said. And I hear this a lot, just being in the room, but we know the importance of making sure that you explain that everybody in the world has a chance to hear it. And I hope that for those that are listening, you can dissect that and use it on your tool belt to get you to the next point of your life, because we're rooting for you here at GRAAHI. We kind of want to go into.
So I just want to say one more thing to everybody who is listening. There is an assignment on your life that only you can do. So I encourage you to tap into it, because I might need what you have.
So we'll be letting
on to be great, because I might need you.
Yes, we might need you.
Perfect social media content right there.
They said clip that one. Hello. Nah, I love that. So she's a natural. She might be a co-host on more podcasts coming later on. So let us know in the comments what do you want. But as we talk about you getting those skills and knowledge to be able to do what's in your birthright, can you walk us through, you had your job and you became a supervisor, and then as we get closer to your opportunity to GRAAHI, what were you doing right before you got really introduced to the chief executive officer job here at GRAAHI?
That's a very good question. So, as I said, I started out at WorkSys Corporation, which was a organization on the east side of the state. And then I ended up actually finding myself through that supervisory position and developing my confidence. So then I went back to school to obtain my graduate degree.
Hello.
And again, I went back to the Grand Valley State University. It's given on out to GVSU.
And we see a little.
Go Lakers.
I got to throw this in here too, because she's giving out the accolades right now, and y'all see this red. This is not your normal red. I mean, this is not your normal red. Can you let the people know what red that is?
Yeah, you guys, Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated. We rock.
Yes.
And I think that one of the reasons that Grand Valley is so special and important to me, two things, is that I did pledge Delta Sigma Theta sorority and developed a network of phenomenal sisters worldwide. So that's a great experience, in addition to, of course, the academic part of it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, just love that CJ department and that psychology department.
Shout out to them Deltas, man. If you're watching, shout out to you.
Shout out to the Deltas.
Yep.
But also met my amazing husband.
Yes.
Grand
Philip
Valley.
Greene.
Mr. Philip Greene.
Mr. Philip Greene. Shout out to you, sir.
Yes.
We've met Mr. Phil numerous of times. Great guy to be around.
Yeah.
I have to sum it up like that. Great guy to be around.
Amazing guy. Also came out of Grand Valley. So.
That's 100%.
All signs point to Grand Valley.
Yeah.
If you haven't caught on to the trend, now you know.
Yeah, you might find your life partner there. You never know.
That's right. Yeah.
But so now you're going back to school now. Is this for your master's, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening? What master's were you going to get?
So actually, I did a master's in higher education leadership.
Okay.
At Grand Valley, and finished that. And then they had started a satellite campus in Holland, Michigan. And so when I finished my master's degree, then I started working for Grand Valley in the satellite campus in their continuing education department, which is a really, really great job, because they had started the satellite campus. And my job was really working with students from beginning to end. So from the whole admissions, the financial aid, the academic advising, the career development. And so, so I just really learned a lot about, the higher education system in that particular role. I did that for about 8 years. And so continuing education is working with adult population, which is really great. But I had more passion working for the traditional age college student. And so then I ended up going to Hope College and working as their director of the Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, as well as then later having the position of Associate Dean of Students at Grand Valley. And so, I'm sorry, at Hope College. And that's where I actually was introduced to the Grand Rapids African American Health Institute. At that time, Shannon Wilson, shout out to Shannon Wilson. She was the executive director for GRAAHI, and had invited me to be on a committee. And so I got to learn about Shannon's work, about the mission of GRAAHI, and fell in love with it. And then a couple of years after being on the committee, she had shared with me that she had gotten a new job and that she'd be leaving. And I thought,
here we go.
Here we go. I really love the mission of GRAAHI. And at that time, I had been, my role at Hope College for a number of years, and was really ready for something different, to kind of end out my career. And so when she informed me, I just kind of watched to see when the job would go listed, and so so
And
the rest
here
is
you
history.
are.
I applied, and here I am 2 years later.
Wow.
Here as the CEO of GRAAHI, and really loving it, and loving the staff, and just the synergy within the community. As we work collectively.
Right. And it's so good to hear that, it seems like you had 2 lives before you even started this GRAAHI life, with all the work and accomplishments that you've done. But to say that you have all that and you sit at this table is wonderful, and it's a pleasure working under you. So with GRAAHI, this organization has been around for 20 years. When you stepped in, we noticed that, it's built on our mission, which is to eliminate or eradicate healthcare disparities in the community, to make healthcare more optimal for African Americans and the community at large, right?
Wow, I love having you on
Right?
staff.
Yeah,
You know the
yeah,
mission
she
really
trained
well.
me
Look at Maddie.
No, this is
Yes.
funny. That was a joke between me and her. 'Cause when I first was hired on, I had a couple speaking engagements, and me and her had some meetings where I was just spitting back the mission to make sure that I knew it. But now it's in me, right?
That's great.
And I just want to let you know that all the time spent went towards something. Right? But we want the people to know, with you being the CEO of GRAAHI now, what is the mission that you would like to accomplish? I know I just stated it, but then what programs are running right now that's helping us get there? Can you talk through the programs that we have in place that are working to accomplish those missions that here at GRAAHI?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, like our mission is to help eliminate health disparities, particularly in the African American community. And just to go back a little bit, in terms of history of how we got here as an organization, it was a result of a community health needs assessment that was conducted by initially the Kent County Health Department here in Kent County.
Yeah.
And then based on those results, it was like glaring, like disparities more daunting than anyone had previously realized. And then they approached the Urban League. And the Urban League then led like a task force, also under the leadership of Dr. Connet, who is one of the founders of GRAAHI.
Yep.
But he looked at the results of the assessment from the county, and then he approached the Urban League and said, "Hey, we need to do something about this." And then a community-wide steering committee was formed to look at it even more deeply, and there were multiple surveys and focus groups. And from those focus groups, it was very clear that the African American community was crying out for an organization like GRAAHI to help address and eliminate, the disparities. Because what it shows, and even continue to show on many scales, is that African Americans fare worse in healthcare outcomes than any other racial ethnic group. And this is pretty much in every category, from infant maternal health to heart disease, diabetes, you name
Cancers,
it. Cancers, right? Like and much of it is due to, our history, with the healthcare system and the distrust that, that continues to persist. And I think that essentially people can overcome issues of trust when systems improve. But when systems don't improve to the degree that allows, the residents to have more trust, then we continue to deal with these perpetual disparities within communities because they're afraid. In terms of the direction, we're working very hard with healthcare systems as well as with the population itself to help build, more trusting relationships so that our communities can feel safe and that they will go and seek treatment early on, because nobody knows our bodies like we do. So we know when things are not, working right and so forth. But often, we also have this inner sense of being strong. And, there's this conversation about high threshold of pain or low threshold of pain. But pain is pain. And when we recognize something is not working well in our bodies, we need to go and get help immediately. And the other thing is also the access to health care. We're doing surveys now, and the cost of health care is really high. The cost of dental treatment is really high.
Yes.
And so when you have to also decide whether or not you can, feed your family or go,
To
get
some
some
healthcare
help,
needs, yeah.
care needs, and you're going to choose to feed your family.
100%.
And so the disparities are rooted in a lot of different things. So you've got distrust, you've got the financial issue, you got access, transportation kinds of things.
Right.
And so there are a lot of things. And so it's not just a matter of GRAAHI, like serving and educating on the health needs, but it's also all those social determinants as well that really impact our outcomes. For example, if we're disenfranchised from the beginning, from where we live, right? Because based on income, it determines where we live. Where we live then determines where we go to school. Where we go to school determines academic preparation. And then that then determines whether or not we go to college. And then again, that determines what type of jobs we get. And so it is dimensional in terms of like the experiences, in terms of the conditions that lead to the disparities that our communities are facing.
Right.
And so we work in collaboration with a lot of other different organizations and healthcare systems so that we can provide the support and services from a holistic level, looking at the social determinants that lead to the kind of outcomes that the communities are facing.
Right.
And so, as we, continue to progress as an organization, then we're building more partnerships, at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, so that we have like more partners, but also more resources to serve and support our communities. Some of the programs that we currently have, like in partnership, is the Kroc Center.
Yep.
So we have a Restoring Health program for our seniors, which is like phenomenal.
I love this program too.
Yes, it's
you can
amazing.
check out some of our testimonials online, our Instagram, socials. I didn't want to cut you off, but for anybody that wants to, see some of those testimonials to see about how that program has went for those ladies in there, they are online. Please check them out. But yes, the Kroc Center. Talk to us about that.
Well, it's a program where we have cohorts of 15. It's this manageable. It needs to be really intimate. But so we provide Fitbits. Well, first they have an assessment so we can, do a baseline of where they are when they start. And they get Fitbits, they get free gym membership at the Kroc Center. They have a personalized coach, and they have like a class once a week on nutrition. Wow. And it is a phenomenal program, and each person who have participated in that program speaks highly about how it has been like changing. So the big thing was looking at COVID and how COVID had isolated our elderly population, and which really impacted their ability to continue to be active, and so we were noticing that physically they were deteriorating, and we wanted to help build that up, and that's why it's called Restoring Health, because we wanted to build, their active, lifestyle and make sure that they were, eating appropriately and so forth, and just kind of getting the physical again, activities, right? Because otherwise their muscles, deteriorate, and then it just creates more like health problems. But the big thing is that they have a cohort, and so it becomes like a sisterhood for them, and so then it connects them with other women who are retired, who are aging, that they can have like an ongoing relationship with. And so that social connection has been a really huge piece, as well as the physical engagement, and as well as the nutrition support that we've given them. And so that's one I'm very proud of. And then of course we have our Pathways program, and to help increase diversity in the healthcare sector. I could not be more proud of like the work that's going on in that program, and how we're preparing a pipeline of students from diverse backgrounds to not just go into healthcare fields, but to prepare them to be leaders in the healthcare field, and to give them the exposure and the tools and the support that they need to be successful. So that's a really huge program, because we all know that when diversity is at the table, then people understand more ways of how to understand these cultures, and also like how to treat based upon some of those cultural, dynamics.
And that's 100%, because when we talked about systems and community level, I think Pathways is the perfect example of what this kind of illustrates, right? Yeah. What other programs do we have going on here?
We have I really like the, well, you guys know I love program that we're doing, and this amazing team. But, we have our mental health and wellness program that's been led by Miguel, and he's done a phenomenal job working, especially with our youth.
Yes.
Because we feel that preparing youth is so incredible for our future. And so working with our youth in mental health and wellness and providing them with tools and so forth to really navigate life is so critical. And, research basically shows us that when you invest in a child, you invest in the future of your nation. And so investing in them in the level that Miguel is leading is very exciting for me. And then we have the community engagement team, and we started like community health navigators last year, which is what the team that you're on.
Yep.
And phenomenal team. And what I really like about this team is just kind of breaking up particular target areas for each member of the team, looking at like 10 different health categories and having one person work on 2 of those gives them the opportunity to provide dedicated attention in 2 particular areas in ways that can be transformative, and working from a steering committee level. And so for each of those particular targeted health areas to build out like a whole team beyond GRAAHI, to be able to look at the needs holistically is very exciting. And so we're looking at that for 2023. And so yes, I'm looking at what the end results are going to be for the work, the very specific targeted work in those areas in 2023. So the pressure is on.
It's on us. Yeah. We're going to get to work as soon as this podcast ends. No. I've defined this pressure as positive pressure.
Yes.
So shout out to you for the positive pressures. We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
I like that.
What is it? They make diamonds?
The
Is that what
PNP?
pressure is?
Yeah, something
Pressure
like
makes
that.
diamonds, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. We don't even worry about the other half of that. We just make diamonds over here.
Yeah,
I like that.
I love that. The PNP, positive pressure. I love it.
Yeah. And then with these programs, why is it so important for us to look at it holistically and not just focused on one thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we all know that people really respond not so much to what we say, but they respond to what we do. And so before we can even like build trust, within our community, is that we have to develop a relationship with them. They have to know that we're coming from a place of care. And so looking at things holistically is the best way to really demonstrate and show that this is not a checkbox for GRAAHI. This is something that we care. We're doing this because we care about you, your whole self.
Right.
And when you look at like health outcomes, from a research standpoint, disparities in itself really are only like 10, 20% of the actual treatment experience. Everything else happens before we even get to the treatment component. And so we have to know what are the living conditions, what's their educational level, like how much do they understand, their experiences and the resources that are available. So we have to like really do thorough assessments so that we know holistically what the need is, what the experiences are, and then in the resources to provide the communities that we're serving. And so in each person that we're working with, their experience may be different. Their need may be a little bit different. And so, but to really just like start there and, doing those interviews with them and spending time, quality time with the communities. And you guys have experienced that with
100%.
many of the, programs, Meritus and other nursing homes and living for center schools that you work with.
Right.
So you've experienced how that ongoing like support, assessing and doing the interviews and understanding their needs and how transformative that has been, and also how it has contributed to their ability to trust us.
100%.
And so, so the holistic approach is really relationship building, trusting in ways that we understand the need and that we can provide the best services to meet those needs.
Wonderful. For us, when we engage with the community, and now that we're getting this trust built for this trust equity, there are community members that want to engage with GRAAHI from a volunteer level.
Right.
Some people want to donate. A lot of people don't know that we are a nonprofit organization. We are built on the community and we are kind of sustained
Right.
from the community. So can you talk about, the donation dollars and if they want to volunteer, those community engagement pieces that keep us sustained as an organization?
Yes, first of all, I want to kind of go back to I cannot not give a shout out to Andrae Ivy.
Man,
I cannot not give a shout out to
100%.
Andrae Ivy because GRAAHI is a research-driven organization, and we have a phenomenal epidemiologist on our team. And so he does a lot of research and developed the Health Equity Index. If you've not visited our website to look at the Health Equity Index, I would encourage you to do so. There's so much information on that index that looks at the social determinants of health. But what I really love about it is it's not a resource that just looks at the problem, but it also provides solutions. So there are recommendations on an individual level, as well as recommendations on a policy level of ways that we can end disparities. And we utilize this Health Equity Index, this research tool, to guide like our priorities as an organization. We also get a lot of feedback from educators, from researchers, from healthcare systems and foundations, because they utilize this Health Equity Index also,
Right.
as a resource to inform them on, what they should be funding for and, what are some of the priorities. And so it is a valuable tool, a phenomenal tool. And so definitely want to give a shout out to Andrae Ivy, and because a lot of the behind the scenes work we don't really see,
Right,
but there's a lot of time,
dedicated
and
to that
talent.
And we got a
That
whole,
is-
I believe we got a
yes.
segment on Andre to where
Yes.
he's going to dive deep into
Yeah, that work
the
is
history,
amazing.
why it's prevalent, how you can utilize it as a community member where you're going to meet with commissioners or local leaders, and why it's so important for this community. So
Right.
I agree with that 100%.
So now to like ways to get involved, like we have multiple programs. So we really work on a grassroots level where we're doing like programs and services to the community, but also on a systems level when it comes to like research and advocacy and working at the state, local, federal level to address some critical issues within, our community's needs. So there are many ways to get involved. And there is a volunteer sign-up form on our website. So anyone who is interested in the mission and the work of GRAAHI, we encourage you to go to our website, which is www.graahi.org.
Yep.
So visit the website, find the form, and sign up for that.
We will be reaching out.
We will be, and we are a
Yes.
a nonprofit organization. So all of our funding is based on grants and sponsorship and donors. And so last year was our 20th anniversary, 2022. But we're still celebrating 2022 and 2023, finalizing some of the celebration of that. And so what we're encouraging like our family and friends and supporters to do is every dollar matters. And so we do have a donation link to our website. And every dollar matters. So if you've got $5 that you'd like to contribute on a monthly basis, if you have $100 that you want to contribute on a one-time basis, or if you're one of those like multi-level, really, really wealthy people and you want to like contribute,
really donate. Yeah.
on $100,000 level, we'll even take $1 million,
We will.
right? Because this is
That's the birthright. No, seriously.
it's the birthright. No, absolutely.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to ask
Right.
because we are on a mission to eradicate health disparities, and it is not a small task. I mean, we have like disparities in every category, and it really requires resources to be able to make impact and make difference. And so we are calling on our community to support us in this work, and not just from a monetary standpoint, but also in any way that you can lend expertise from research, from advocacy, public policy, from community engagement.
Yes.
We would love to tap into your talents and your gifts, and so reach out and let us know what you have to offer and ways that you would like to volunteer with the organization based upon our mission.
I want to take this time to also give you kudos from talking with the team from the organization at large. We want to say thank you for being you, right? From that aspect. And then we're going to play a little game here.
Okay.
Are you ready to shift now?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's game time.
Let's do it.
I'm just a
like
soundboard guy. I'm just a soundboard guy.
Oprah Winfrey at the end. She asked those one question things. I'm like, oh Lord, is that what this is?
Yep, something close like it. So the first one is if you can get if you could give an affirmation to any particular department person in your organization, who or what department would it go to and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's a really hard one.
I know what did we say? The positive pressure is on.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna do that.
Well, as our CEO, you can switch it up
I'm not
as you
gonna do
please. No,
that.
I'm just playing.
No, what I will say, however, is that I think team synergy and the culture of the organization is incredibly important. And I have an immense value for the gifts and the talents that everyone brings to the table, because not one person can do like anything. It requires like a full team. I don't believe in like status of like titles and so on and so forth, because I think fundamentally everybody has an equal value in what they bring to the table. And I have immense value for the GRAAHI team and the commitment and the passion and the talent that each person brings every day. It's refreshing, like to have a team that, you know, if you ask them to do something, everybody is so committed to the ultimate like goal and outcome of the community that when you all are asked to do something, you eagerly accept the call
100%,
and the challenge. And so my affirmation and shout out is to the whole team.
Let's do it. Spoken like a true leader.
Is-
That was a trick question. That was the game right there.
Yeah, no,
you passed.
Yeah, you passed. With flying colors.
Well, I learned that from my mama, because you know you got a couple of people on the family that want to be the star. My mama is like, no, all my babies are stars.
And
So-
all of them are
all
stars.
of them.
Everybody's special. I love that. Well, that's something great to end on.
It's an amazing team.
It is, and you know the podcast that you see today is coming out of Vanessa's vision of another way to engage with you all and be where you guys are. So we are privileged to have this opportunity to have these conversations, Calvin and I, and the rest of the team. So thank you for your time.
Well,
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this podcast to life. It's
You're
amazing.
welcome. So today we've had the pleasure of speaking to Mr. Andrae Ivy. Andrae, would you like us to address you by Andrae through the duration of this?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
So Mr. Ivy has been working with GRAAHI now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrae. Has it been a few years already?
It's been on and off for about 7 to 8 years.
7, 8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now you are our lead researcher, our director of research for GRAAHI right now. So it's a pleasure and having you here with us and coming on the Curated Conversations podcast for GRAAHI. We're gonna dive in here, but first we want the people to get to know you, some of your credentials and how you got introduced to GRAAHI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I have a bachelor's in biology from Grambling State University. I then left there and I went to St. Louis University, St. Louis, Missouri, and I got my master's in public health, where I majored in epidemiology. I did that for a couple of years. I did a lot of research at that university with some really high-level researchers. And then I went to the CDC in Atlanta, where I became a fellow in the heart disease and stroke division unit. So I did a lot of work on kind of state plan indexes, looking at, different policies for a while. I did that for a minute. And then I went to CDC's Healthy Communities program for about 4.5 years, where I did a lot of work in assessment tools, high impact policies, writing, summaries, writing articles, just doing a lot of things there. I left there and went to AmeriGroup Community Care in Atlanta, where I became a director of quality management for a while. And that was very interesting, the whole health insurance lens
Was that transition? I have to ask a question in this piece, right? Like, was that whole transition always with the health focus in it from the biology degree and then going on to St. Louis? Was there always a health focus for all the research that you've been doing? Was it
Yeah,
like
definitely.
wise? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the difference between really public health and then health insurance, a lot of the public health is really focused on prevention measures.
Mhm.
So where health insurance is more about, treatment, rehabilitation, outreach, education. Public health is more about, preventing, doing research, trying to figure out what are the issues, what's going on in the community to really address that. And so it's always a health focus, but it's just a different kind of approach.
Right.
I prefer the prevention aspect of it.
Mhm.
As the healthcare is a lot more, a lot of things going on there. So
But as you got in after your initial research in Atlanta and then coming into GRAAHI, did you come into GRAAHI with the understanding of knowing that you'd be what you'll be researching or what your plans would be coming into GRAAHI, or was it kind of like an open blank canvas for you starting off?
I had an idea. It was doing health equity projects. That was
Okay.
kind of the overall vision when I went there. I was presented with the Health Equity Index as a project I'll be kind of responsible for it. So
Mhm.
when I got there, the director told me, like, this is your project. You have kind of full range to do what you want to do with it. And
Mhm.
so I kind of utilize that because I don't mind a challenge. I like really getting things
Mhm.
together. I like organizing. I like to, strategize a plan, bringing up research and being very innovative. So I
Right.
like the challenge of doing this health equity index. So there was really no overall, I guess, you know, vision. It was more like we got funded from the Kellogg Foundation to do a health equity index to ensure that we're providing, Kent County residents and health practitioners with information to make sure that it's simple and user friendly, but have a
Mhm.
health disparity lens on it. So that
Right.
was really the overall agenda. Make sure it is user friendly, simple, so anyone can understand it, but make
Right.
sure the health disparity lens and make sure there's a focus on children's health. So that was kind of the initial kind of introduction for me. I started really working on putting it together, the ideas, the logic models. I kind of had a framework that I started with, just a
Mhm.
vision of it. I started mapping it out, drawing out my own kind of web pages,
And
from
what does that process look like when you're I kind of look at it like, I don't know if y'all somebody think about this, right? You got a detective who knows they have a case and they walk into their room and it's a whole bunch of strings around
Like Law and
their
Order.
on their wall.
Uh,
I'm kind of thinking like, is that like when you have your initial framework where kind of where things are, and then like you're pulling from stuff to create the inception itself, or like what does that kind of look like in the very beginning to get that framework down to something so simple?
That's a great question. It goes back to my education really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at Grambling State, I was in the Minority Access to Research Careers program. It's called MARC. So we had a very, interesting kind of lens on making sure that we, as Black health professionals, we understand the need for health disparities and the need for more Black, healthcare professionals. Then when I went to St. Louis University, I was in the Eliminating Health Disparities program.
Oh
So
wow.
I was a fellow where I actually won this kind of scholarship and part of this program where we actually went in and we had classes on how do we eliminate health disparities.
Mm-hmm.
We had
okay.
professors that were really like
That
challenging.
literally hit home.
Yeah, so it was like at that moment in time, we were challenged with, how do you look at health disparities from a
Mm-hmm.
community level, from a neighborhood level, from a social level, economic level, policy level,
Mm-hmm.
um, from a racial, ethnic level. So we made sure at that moment we were challenged by professors. How do you address some of these health disparities that we talk about? We know that Black people have higher rates of many different illnesses, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, stroke. And so we just can't keep saying that these are the issues. What are the social dynamics, which gets into the social determinants of health,
Right.
Exactly.
right? Which
Yep.
kind of brings in the lens of, okay, we know here are the outcomes of what's driving the behaviors that lead to the outcomes or the environment, which gets into poverty, unemployment, poor access to healthcare, air pollution, poor education, all these things, right? So when I got to GRAAHI, we had this kind of clean slate of a project, and I'm like, okay, let me figure out how can I do this. And really, the one thing I really thought about was what's plausible. what is actually doable. Let's get back to this gets to the SMART objective, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So what can we do at this level that's going to be realistic and timely to really get to this overall goal of having this health equity index? And so the one thing I did was, where is the data at the community level, at the county level? So a lot of it was really just kind of doing a whole deep dive across different databases, different organizations to see, okay, where is the data? Like CDC, is it health departments, is it the local health department, is it all these other organizations? And so a lot of it was, what's there, how can I bring it together? And really the first thing that I did was do the logic models. I said, let me put the logic models down and get the vision first, and then bring the data in later. So that's kind of was my initial plan there.
It's amazing where it's a lot of information, but it's digestible. And I think that's, for somebody who doesn't have the expertise or all the credentials that you have, to bring it down to a level that just an everyday person can take a look at and understand and see those disparities, and then hopefully are prompted to act.
And that's a good point. That was, I think some people may miss that a lot of work went into making it simple and user friendly, because I could have put it into these very elaborate tables and a lot of big fancy stuff. But the overall vision was, how do we simplify it? And this gets back to my CDC work, where I was in a translation and dissemination team, where our main goal was translating very complex data and making it simple for people to understand it. Yeah. So not just having the data or information, but how do you translate it for people to understand? Your mother, your aunt, your uncle,
everyday people,
the teacher, you know what I'm saying? People who not, you know, the bus driver.
I was probably sitting in that class like, man, we don't know if people really gonna be doing, we're gonna have to use this. Right. But here we are today.
Yeah, truly.
And it hits home.
Yeah, no, and obviously, like, a lot of your education and even some of the programs that you went through throughout your educational career kind of all brought you back to what you're doing now, and it all loops together. I know we brought up, and we've been talking pretty extensively about kind of where the health equity index comes from and the original need for it. Could you explain a little bit in depth about what the health equity index can show you and what information and data is provided for, I guess, your everyday individual?
Sure. So overall, the health equity index focuses really on health data for Kent County, Michigan, or Grand Rapids, Michigan, along with data for the state of Michigan and the U.S. And so what it really does is it compares how well Grand Rapids or Kent County is doing compared to the state of Michigan and the U.S. Okay. And it also break it down by race and ethnicity for Kent County. So then you have disparity data that's also provided by race and by Blacks, whites, Hispanics, and Asians, where the data is available for Kent County. So that's generally what it does from a data lens. I also have some pretty elaborate interactive data maps in the index too. Over the years, I really met with some other people about it, and they were able to show me how to really map out the data from a visual lens across Grand Rapids. And so I also have this kind of very census tract level data that you can look at for, different illnesses, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, things like that. I then have a lot of health recommendations to then promote to people. So if you go in the index, you'll see all these health recommendations that are listed. I took time, and those are written in a very simple, lens. I wanted people to really understand it. So those are very simple, to the point, evidence-based recommendations that people can either employ by themselves. I also have programmatic recommendations, also policy recommendations too. So it gives you data from the city level, county level, state level, US level, race, ethnicity level, health recommendations. You have interactive data maps over here. On top of all of that, I made sure I added in other reports I've done over the years. So it has a health equity report I did last year. It has a report on mental health that I did last year. It has a report on disparity matrix, looking at, how can we really, what numbers do we need to really hit to reduce disparities? It also has a trend data analysis. So you have not just data, you also have analyses and reports and reviews as well to kind of inform people, here are the data points, here are the issues, here are the disparities, here are the numbers. and then here are some ways we can get to that, trying to overcome these disparities in West Michigan.
Right.
Yeah.
That was very well said. I think for Grand Rapids African American Health Institute to have this is very important because it puts the disparity gaps, which our mission is to help alleviate or close, right in front of your face.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, I was gonna say, it brings the information to your front door.
Yeah. And it's not hard to see, which is good because now we're able to get off of our feet and actually get on our feet, and go tackle those different areas. So we love what you're doing, Andrae. We appreciate it. We want to give you your flowers right now, with all the hard work you've put in. So we appreciate all that. For me, I had a question. This kind of was dawning on me. So we spoke about the general public, right, and how they're utilizing these tools. And we have organizations like us and how we're looking to close disparity gaps. But if you have healthcare professionals, how could they utilize this tool?
That's a good question. When I was in Grand Rapids, I actually went around to different nonprofit leaders in the city, and I sat down with them and I said, after reviewing this index, how does this work for you? And what can we use to make it better? And so I got a lot of feedback over that probably year from people who are out there actually doing it at different nonprofit organizations, even healthcare institutions. On top of all of that, at the very beginning, after I told you my initial planning phase and we designed it, we then had 5 focus groups across Grand Rapids. Okay. Where we invited people from different institutions, healthcare organizations, nonprofits to different locations where we actually walked them through the index and got their hand-in-hand feedback, because we wanted to make sure that it represented them and what their needs were too. Right. So I would say all that to say that it was informed by the community. It was informed by healthcare leaders. It was informed by nonprofit managers and people in the community. So they can use it in many ways. One way, I know people know about health inequities and health disparities, but they may not know the current data. So we can keep talking about it, but with what current information are we using? Because we know that certain things will go up and down with data or disparities. You don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again unless you have something you can back it up with. Right. So the index provides them with that timely, in the moment information that will inform their issue in the moment. So going to, let's say, a city council meeting or a board meeting, or you go into some kind of community event, you just can't say, well, we have, Black people have issues. Well, let's inform that with the data and with the information in real time. Right. So it provides kind of an in-time moment that people can use to inform health disparities. On top of that, as you all know, that healthcare leaders and even providers, they're always looking for ways to improve the situation. Like, how do we can talk about the issue, but then how do we inform it? So this also informs, grant writing efforts. It informs their own policies and programs at their university or their organization. So it's very informative. I like to call it a kind of a data center or data hub for people around West Michigan to kind of inform their own policies and their organization. So it does that as well. It also brings light to issues to then bring more money to these issues in Grand Rapids. Yes. So you write grants and you go to these different organizations, you meet with policymakers. They're going to always say, show us the data. Yeah. They're going to always say, well, show me the information. We know we heard this 10 years ago. We heard it 15 years ago. So this also is kind of like it's a tool that people can use as they go to these other people and ask for resources or money or funding. Yeah. So it serves all these different purposes. On top of that, I like to think of it also as an innovative tool that inspires people. Yeah. So I know that when I originally did it, I got a lot of positive feedback from people, and they wanted to mimic it or do their own. So it was even across public health. There were a lot of indexes that popped out after this one came. I'm not saying that I informed all of it.
Yeah. But somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do the work. The butterfly effect. Somebody got to drop it to cause some other things to happen on the back
end. I would get, Connecticut had one that I looked at before I did mine, but there are only a few when I did mine. Now they're everywhere. You'll see them almost every city, not every city, but many cities around the country. And so there are only a couple when we did it. So I kind of look at it as an innovative tool. I've been contacted by many organizations about it because they're like, "How did you do it? Like, where did you get the data?"
Yeah.
And I remember one person at a conference. He said, "You just went and did it." He said, "You stopped talking about it. You just went and did it." Because when he saw my presentation, I laid it out. Like, yeah, I had a vision, I had a framework, I had logic models, and I had a way to get the data. And then how do we present it in a simple way? So it wasn't a whole lot of talking. It was mainly just sitting down and doing the work and trying to inspire people. Like, look, if you have a vision and you have a way of getting there, then this is an example of that. So,
Right. It's definitely inspirational. I can say that from myself, and the multifaceted way that it impacts the community is also what touched me. Like you say, from information for yourself, your friends, family, and then if you want to go out and do something about it, you can then use that, put it with you in your laptop, and bring it to whoever is holding those resources and just show it to them. It's not much you would have to even say at that moment. Just show it to them.
Yeah,
and then
numbers don't lie. That's how I look at it.
don't lie. And that's like literally like that's a Robin Hood mentality almost, right? Right. We're not going to go into logistics of Robin Hood going and stealing the wealth, but to go out into the world to get something of value and bring it back to your people and say, here, this is for y'all to eat with.
Right.
Essentially is essentially what you're doing. And we appreciate that, and being a trailblazer in that way too. So,
man, the Robin Hood thing. We got a lot of quotables from this
one
already.
I ain't gonna lie.
We're already
I had
tapping
that
into
one tucked
the
for a
genius.
while.
I
I've been
think
waiting to
Andre's
tell him.
sparking some fires underneath us too, man. We're like, we're getting it going.
You mentioned like what happened after we created this. Like a lot of states kind of took note of it, tried to implement something like it. So for you getting started, there really wasn't too much to reference when it comes to like what your index looked like and what it promoted. Like you just kind of had this up in your head. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Connecticut, I give them credit. They had a health equity index when I started. They were one of the first ones. I think it was the Connecticut Health Equity Index. And so they had a very good one. So I kind of use a little bit of them for inspiration, but a lot of it was kind of how do we formulate it and format it for people to understand and really want to use. Because the other thing about it is we wanted it to be a tool for people, also younger people, to really like and want to use. And so I wanted to make it something that was going to be fun and interactive. So that even the colors and the framework and everything like that is all on purpose.
Yeah.
We used to have avatars. You would have liked this. We used to have, we used to have, I guess I watched the movie too many times, right?
I was just going to say, this is the plug for the Avatar 2 coming out. So I don't know if this is on Andre's mind already.
This is
I'm going to the IMAX theater. I'm just telling y'all.
Oh, it's a must.
Like
yeah,
you got to go to the IMAX theater to check out that. But okay, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, so this is in 2014. And so the notion of having like talking kind of figures on a website, it wasn't, brand new, but for a health equity index, it kind of was. So really what I had this program that I bought through GRAAHI. They bought it. And so then I designed these different characters that were talking cartoon characters. And then I wrote a script for each one talking about health equity issues. And then I had my fellow GRAAHI members like read it out, and I recorded it. And so their voice is on the index as a cartoon talking about health equity.
That's dope.
Yeah. And so
2014, that's dope.
You need to work for Pixar, man. What's going on?
Protect Andrae Ivy at
That's
all
what I'm saying. Put some
costs.
respect on this man's name.
Protect them at all costs.
Yeah, for real.
And I also had another thing on the website. It was a website assistant. And I actually called her GAIL, which is the acronym for GRAAHI's Artificially Intelligent Liaison. Right?
I'm bringing it back up. I'm telling you, I'm
Yeah,
gonna bring these
for
things
real.
back
I'll be
to
the voice of the avatar and the GAIL. Let's do it.
I'm bringing it back to the people.
And
Okay,
so
talk to us about GAIL.
So GAIL was a person, as a artificially intelligent person. I had to program her so that if people put in certain keywords, she would then respond back with an answer. So somebody put in diabetes, it will then give diabetes rates for Kent County and Michigan and the US. If somebody asks about health equity, it'll give the definition for health equity. So it was it wasn't super like sophisticated, but it was kind of to the point. I had to keep updating it with the new data, so it became very tedious. But at the time, I wanted something innovative and something interactive, and people that really impressed many people. But again, due to
Technicalities and things like
funding,
that.
things like that, we couldn't.
Politics will
It
call
costs, it costs money to keep that stuff up there. But
yeah.
I had other features initially that were, very, very cool.
Big thank you. We'll just loop back here. We know you did a really good descriptive job of explaining the Health Equity Index, but just to loop it back straight off of our Health Equity Index on the website, the purpose of the index is to show you health equities and disparity issues in West Michigan, to serve as a data and disparity center for hospitals, universities, businesses, and homes, to inform the academic and grant efforts of medical and nonprofit organizations, to provide you resources and recommendations to improve health equity outcomes, and last but not least, to highlight health equity issues to attract more resources and support. So again, thank you so much for taking your time to speak with us, Mr. Andrae. We're excited to get this portion of the podcast rolling, and to many more.
But if there's anybody that you want to shout out, anything like that, feel free.
Any final words?
Now, floor is yours, boss.
Yeah. In the Health Equity Index, there's an acknowledgement section where I kind of list everybody that was involved in the process. So it just wasn't me. I led the process, but there were many people along the way. We had other employees who would give their feedback. We had interns that would kind of find resources for me sometime. We had an expert panel that we brought people in to inform the process. We got to give Kellogg Foundation, they were the original funder of it. And so we had many people who gave their support in different ways. So all those people are on the website. Even Dr. Borders, who helped me do the interactive data maps, he was very helpful with that. So, all those people, I appreciate all their help over the years. And all the interns that helped along the way too. So overall, it's I think a tool that will live for a while. As we keep the index going, keep the data going, keep just the energy going of it. So I'm very happy with it. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me. My Andrae.Ivy@GRAAHI.org. About any questions you have, you just let me know. And also we can give credit to YouTube. This is a very cool podcast you all have. Very important to really, have this conversation. So I really appreciate the vision you all have to do this, because you all, you have your own vision and you know what's going on. So I really appreciate you all asking me to be on here. So this is really cool. I'm looking forward to see more podcasts from you all. So this is really good. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, of course. No problem. Likewise. Well, I think we have a minute left here. And that's it, fellas. Andrae, please send us your address, so that way we can get something sent down to you as a thank you.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. You mean my email address or
your address for us to actually mail you something?
Oh, okay, cool.
We'll do something a little bit more personal touch.
I see that. Okay.
Okay. Like a bunch of Avatar.
You got me with that one. Okay. Okay, sounds good. I can do that.
Yes, sir.
Cool. We're here, and we have the pleasure to speak with, honestly, probably my favorite person on the team. What do you think?
I was gonna say the same thing. I ain't gonna lie. He's not my little brother, as you can see. You know what I'm saying? Age-wise, he's like my little bro, but I love working with Miguel. He's one of my favorite.
Miguel Gonzales,
yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend is here with us today. He is the program coordinator for our mental health, or our health and wellness program. He is the program coordinator for our health and wellness program here at GRAAHI, the Grand Rapids African American Health Institute.
Yep.
The one, the only.
Miguel Gonzales.
Why do we even have you here today? Can you explain? Can you?
Why? Because I'm extremely humble and was just like so grateful to be here. Yeah.
That's Miguel.
That's why I like this guy, man. That's why I like this guy.
All right. Well,
but no, truly, nonetheless, with all jokes aside, Miguel truly is our program coordinator for the health and wellness program here. He does a lot of things. I mean, he's a man that wears plenty of hats and works really hard. Humble guy, young, great looking. Look at the guy. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What do the viewers need to know about Miguel?
Yeah. So I am Miguel Gonzales, fresh out of the 313, West Side, Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Raised, not born. So I don't want to get
the folks confused, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Folks confused.
Clarity.
I grew up out. I was born outside, but I grew up with my grandmother in Detroit, and so went to school out there. Came to Grand Valley about 2015.
Okay.
And spent my days going to school there. Then
What was your studies while you were there at Grand Valley? What were you studying?
When I first got to school at Grand Valley, I was studying clinical exercise science.
Okay.
And so with an interest into pursuing a field in physical therapy. As I was doing that, I was a personal trainer back in my high school, supporting our football team and track team out there. And so I would go there over the summer, support them, and then come back up here. And then I did 12-month long internship at Mary Free Bed Hospital up here in Grand Rapids. And then I realized that I just wanted to have a bigger impact on families' lives. I felt like I worked personally and closely with a lot of patients working in the hospital, but just never had the chance to really provide them the access and resources that they needed. So I stepped away from that transition, took some time away from school, went back home, and just started working for as many organizations that had a big impact in the city as possible. And then I came back up here because I heard about some great opportunities. One thing led to another, and got an interview here, and here I am today.
Here you are. I love that backstory because it gives a preface of I am a firm believer that everything you go through is divine timing, right? Like every experience in real time is going to shape you to be a part of what you eventually are kind of made to do, right? So learning from Miguel, you can tell he has a lot of experiences on both sides, clinical and also on a non-clinical side, just from being able to see kind of disparities in the system and from a person that's engaging with the system. And you need that type of guy. And you guys are going to see why when we start diving into the work he's doing.
I was going to say that it's really nice to see where a lot of the inspirations and, like, I guess the passion behind the work comes from, because I mean, we work in a very passion driven industry, or industry, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? That sounds a little weird.
Yeah,
to say
ecosystem,
like that, ecosystem. You know how it goes. Yeah. We work in a very passion driven career base. So knowing where those inspirations come from, and kind of how it all draws you here, or where the origin stories come from to bring you here, makes a lot of sense. So we appreciate you sharing that. As the program coordinator, if you want to describe just a little bit about the health and wellness program and just an overview, just so the people know what exactly you're working on a day-to-day.
Yes. So there are actually a couple different programs that GRAAHI offers to the local King County area. The first being our African American Youth Mental Health and Wellness Program. That is the one that you all are referring to. And then we have another program that we are piloting. It is essentially a smoothie camp program that educates youth on the importance of nutrition, fresh produce, and how those things are essentially preventative treatments for various diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, obesity. And there's a huge list of different diseases that are affected by diet.
No, true.
True. Yeah. So those are the two programs that I kind of pilot here.
One of them, not to cut you off, I want to break these up, right? So you got two separate ones, right? When you first started here, how long have you been with the organization so far?
December 28th, 2021.
Big day. I know it's coming up for you. So 1 year anniversary. We're going to decorate your office.
Yeah.
We got something for you.
Cupcakes, muffins.
I want fireworks.
You want fireworks inside? We got you.
No, outside.
If anybody knows, this is Miguel. This is the real Miguel right here.
So
to dissect your programs, right? When you came in, you weren't working on the smoothie camp when you first came in. This was the youth mental health and wellness program. Can you kind of dive into the work that you've done in that space, from kind of like when you started to kind of now and where you're at?
Yeah. So with the youth mental health and wellness program, we spent a lot of time trying to develop a virtual program. So when we first started, it was back in
COVID time.
Yeah, COVID time. This little virtual program where we were trying to work with 50 plus different families to provide them resources. I'll try to break it down. So this program had three main components to it. The first one being mental health, which we kind of looked at as coping skills and positive behavior development. Then we looked at exercise and fitness, stretching, and nutrition education, of course. But the last two kind of surrounding your mental health. So the big focus is mental health, making sure that you're in a positive state to be able to take on those other things and be able to focus on those other things. Because the belief that we have with this program is that in order for a person to have the energy and just the patience to take on those different aspects of their healthy living and daily healthy habits, they have to be mentally able to take on that. I mean,
100%. 100%. And you talked about some things with us that like everything flows into your mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we were raised to kind
flows
of
in and out,
right? Revolving door concept. And Miguel brought this to me and kind of broke it down in a way for me to really understand. To where me as a kid, I thought about like my physical health was just for me to kind of look good.
Exactly.
And like when I present myself, I'm looking good, right?
Yeah.
And then my nutrition I really didn't even care about my nutrition growing up, for real. I didn't think that it connected to how I was feeling.
Truly.
I never made that, right? I'm just like, I'm about to eat good because I feel like I'm gaining weight.
Exactly.
So I'm about to eat better, right?
We're like hardwired to separate them.
Keep
them separated.
The whole time, which is horrible.
Yeah, when in all actuality, every single thing relies on each other.
And to get to that optimal state of mental health. This is something that he brought down. So I think to bring that to a youth, and remind me the age range that you guys were having for the children.
Yeah,
what age was this
with
for?
that program, 8 to 13.
8 to 13
and
years
then
old.
we even had a couple 15-year-olds with us for a short period of time.
That's amazing too. So when a kid joined this program and they signed up, what did this program, what resources were they given when it came from the mental health component, the physical health, and the nutrition? What resources were they given in each category?
So the first thing was the mental health consulting with one of our community partners. I'm not going to list their name, but with some of the local family and youth services that Grand Rapids has to offer, we partner with them and provide that resource for the families. And so the kids get to talk and play out different scenarios and learn and talk and walk through different experiences that they might experience in their life. With the exercise, we have home exercise videos for the families to engage in together at home. They're like recorded, and we created playlists for them. And also provide them exercise equipment, jump ropes, yoga mats, like the resistance bands. And then for the nutrition, providing them not only produce or assistance in getting those produce, but also recipes. Recipes that are tailored to how we eat at home.
So this wasn't just like for our marginalized communities, right, that we work with on a daily basis. You guys were intentional, or GRAAHI, but you specifically, we being the coordinator, were intentional in making sure that the things that they were going to eat was put into a healthy recipe.
We wanted to make practicing healthy habits as seamless as a process as possible.
I like that.
Yeah,
when you think about
that's fire,
yourself or your family and just trying to get on a healthy course in life, I feel like a lot of people go to the extremes. I'm going to diet. I'm not going to eat this for however long. I'm not going to
spend this money. I'm not going to do
overcomplicated. Extreme process. And I believe we talked about this at one of the diabetes community conversations we had with one of the guests there. Had asked, how do I slowly, develop these healthy habits. And the thing is, you have to make it in a way where you can commit. So breaking it down, don't always start with a big goal. You have to break those goals down and make it simpler for yourself. Make it so that it's something that you not only want to do, but something that you can do. And don't get frustrated with yourself if you miss a day. You know why? Because there's 365 days in a year, and it's all about making that continuous progress.
Right, which is what it's about. I also had a question. How many families have you interacted with? Talk to me about that, because when I first thought about you doing all these things, I'm like, all right, maybe you're doing like 10 families or maybe 15. How many kids did you have sign up?
So with the first group, we had 53 registered and participating for some duration of time for the program. And then for this second group that we're currently, they're almost done. They got 2 more weeks left.
For real? They coming down to the fourth quarter?
Part of me is like sad, but I know like I'll be back and working with another group of kids in next year. So I'm like, I'll see them. And but this new group, we have 16. We had 17. One of them had to drop due to some circumstances, but we have 16 kids in this new group.
That's awesome.
And so, you do the math on that. This 69, I think.
Yeah, 69. No, you do the math.
I was trying to say,
wait,
you
don't
seem like
don't let me do the math. I'm not coming up with the right answer.
Around with numbers and hits it right on the nose.
I didn't want to do it, but my mind was like, I put myself out there, so I had to.
I'm glad you picked that up for me, because
I think we just looked. I think we just figured out his secret talent. We were going to ask you your secret talent. It's obviously mental math.
I'm sure he has more. We'll dive into that. So with your cohorts, you had 2 of them, and this is just one of the programs that Miguel is managing right now. What was the other one you spoke about? You spoke about the smoothie camp. And this is a pilot program?
The name of the program is called High Five.
Okay, and
it's in relation to fresh fruits, vital vegetables, and just understanding the importance of vital fresh produce as it relates to your health. I mentioned earlier that is essentially preventative care, preparing your body to have the necessary
nutrients, things that it needs on a daily basis.
Things it needs to protect you from various diseases. Controlling your health, and it doesn't go in necessarily into like the exercise and mental health component that the other program has, but this one's a really fun program.
That seems fun.
And so we officially start next year, and so next January. But we've been doing various sessions, engagement sessions throughout the community and throughout some of the different schools in the area to just kind of test out some of the recipes, make sure that the kids actually going to drink them.
Actually get a little taste of them. So these are all smoothies that they're getting, not meals per se, but actual smoothies
just
that
actually
gives them
smoothies
the
that
nutrients.
they make themselves, they blend them themselves, they provide they get the fruit, and they pick out and decide what they want to use.
I love one piece of it. You had to get a piece of paper in front of them. So it's not like the kids are just putting stuff in a smoothie machine and then they're just drinking it. There's a little education.
It's intentional.
There's a little EDU behind that, right? Give them a little game with what you do with the kids with the piece of paper in the jar.
So what you're referring to is, there's this thing called the My Plate out there.
Yep. So if you don't know, you can Google it. My Plate.
It's a resource we all should learn.
100%.
And essentially what I did was I took those basic components and created the My Cup. And so I have the kids create their perfect smoothie. And then from there, we have a discussion on each ingredient, whether it be a protein, dairy product, a vegetable, fruit, and
fibers,
additional fibers, the grains, and any additional sweeteners. And we talk through those ingredients and discuss if this is actually nutritional, if this is tailored to things that you personally need. What are the benefits of this? When might you want to use it? So big thing for me is breakfast is essential.
Yes.
Breakfast. The word is literally breaking fast from your sleep.
True.
You need to supply your body the nutrients that you miss out on, that you're deprived of while you're sleeping, while you're not eating. And that's missed often, especially in adults.
Yeah.
How many of us either our
You
days are
start
power on
telling
coffee.
yourself like I'm not a breakfast person. I do that, and that's really
Or
not
you just
good.
don't have time. I mean,
feel
everybody
like you
would
don't.
like that extra couple minutes to sleep in. Sometimes, some people.
That's why a smoothie can come and play though. Like you can make that night before. You can make your kids some. You're in college. You definitely don't got that much time in college. You can make your shakes based off your My Cup strategy. Know what you like. Break it down ahead of time. And then you could be good for 3 days and wake up and go. Get
them
on
out
your
the way.
business.
You can prep those things. Like the
Pre-prep.
NutriBullets we have, you can just stock a cup up and put it on the blender as soon as you're ready to go.
Be creative when you're making these. Like, don't feel like you have to be boring and
Think
Well,
outside
just
the
express
blender.
yourself.
Think
just
outside
strawberries
the blender.
and
Think
bananas.
outside the blender.
There's that keenness.
Did
for
you
that
hear
thing.
him? He's back.
Think outside
The
the
man's
blender.
back.
Chef's
So
kiss.
I want to kind of transition into like impact, right? Like, so when you first started, you were saying, you came over from Detroit, and then you were in Grand Valley doing some of your internship things, and you wanted to have greater impact, right? What's some of the outcomes that you want to get from these two programs that going into it, you were able to kind of assess the disparity at play, which you already brought to the forefront. Now, on the back end, what are you hoping to get or the kids to get from each one of these programs?
So I'll start with the first program, the Youth Mental Health and Wellness Program.
Great.
The biggest thing is making sure that these kids know that there's access to support, that there's access to mental health and mental wellness resources. That's the big thing. From there, we want to make sure that they not only have those resources, but that they know how to apply them.
That's good.
And that they know how to teach them to their families. We want everything that we teach the kids, we want them to be able to teach their families too. Why? Because accountability is important. When you're talking about mental health, when you're talking about nutrition, when you're talking about exercise, if you're doing things in a group, that makes you more likely to continue
To do it,
continue to build that habit.
Go
The
ahead.
mission of this program is to build mentally stronger and healthier communities,
Okay.
focusing on both the bigger community and the family community. And so
That's good.
that's the main outcome.
Yeah.
There's a huge list of other objectives and outcomes that we're looking for, but that's the main thing.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. What you're doing, the person that you are, you're intentional about everything you're doing. You're humble, and your integrity's high. You have great character, and you care about everybody else around you, almost more than yourselves sometimes. Because I say there's times where you're tired, and you're still pushing forward. You're not allowing that to deter you or get you off track. So, from one coworker, friend, brother to you, I appreciate that. And seeing you do that means a lot to me. And I'm sure the kids could say the same thing. So that's good. We got some fun stuff to kind of get to. I think Calvin's got some stuff on our
Some fun
itinerary
stuff?
here.
Trivia?
Yeah,
I
we
know
got
about trivia.
We got some fun stuff. No, it ain't gonna be history. We know you.
Nah, I'm not good with history.
I know he's not. That's I was like, that's his favorite
No,
category.
we'll keep this short and sweet.
Let's
We're
jump
going to
into
ask
it.
everyone the same 3 questions, or I guess we're going to go through the same 3 activities with everyone, kind of
Yeah.
compile it all. Give us some, to look back at, laugh at, smile at, you know. I guess we'll start it off. Who do you consider the office comedian?
Yeah, now the humbleness is going away.
Oh, me.
He could
Oh,
be.
yeah.
Stacy.
I like that.
That's a good one.
That's a good answer.
Because Stacy's like shooting percentage is is high. Like he may not
He's
take
lethal.
many
He's
shots.
lethal.
I was going to say
He's
it's
lethal.
lethal.
He may not take many shots, but when he
American
takes
sniper.
them, clean bean.
American
green
sniper.
bean, as they would call it. American
Sniper.
He's him.
Efficient.
All right,
Ding
we
dong.
love that answer.
Perfect. So, Stacy, you have been crowned by Miguel the office comedian. Next, best dressed. Who has the most?
Who got the most drip, man?
Drip.
Come on, let's give it to us.
I wanted to say drip, but I was like, maybe
Nah,
I should,
it's
you know what
drip.
I'm saying? Yeah,
It's
who
drip.
has drip?
It has to go to Vanessa.
Man, I like that response too.
Vanessa-
Vanessa always comes in looking
I was
very.
thinking we should do male and female, but Vanessa's the most consistent.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Vanessa's always going to come
most consistent
with a statement.
100%. I agree. Good one. Go ahead.
And then this is just a random one. Give one affirmation to a random staff member or program. You can compliment a program, or you can just compliment a staff member, someone that you know has been going above and beyond.
Yep.
All right.
It can be one of us too. Don't be shy.
You can say whatever you want.
I love
That hit
compliments.
me with a curveball. I was really expecting trivia.
My name, you can pronounce my name Kalon, the man, when you say it. But go ahead.
Ashley, you have been
Ashley?
the best creative genius flow person for me. Like, I have a million thoughts, and you help guide so many of those thoughts into the perfect position to be groomed and to blossom. And so, long story short, I appreciate that. She's been amazing since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and I think she'll appreciate too. I think she'll appreciate that as well as she comes back into the office. We've missed her. Mm-hmm. She's been gone for a while. You know, we've been scratching tooth and nail to make sure this ship is still floating.
Yeah.
And thank God it is.
It is. It's excelling.
So we're excited to have Ashley, our fearless leader, as one of her favorite coined terms is our fearless leader, because she is fearless. She does everything, you know, without any questions asked, and nonetheless, an amazing woman to have. So thank you, Miguel, for that affirmation. Thanks for being on here. I mean, you didn't really have a choice, but I appreciate you coming by and, you know, sitting down in the dojo, you know, getting some answers, some questions answered, and some, you know, all
anything else you want to sign off on before
final words?
We're done?
peace, love, and happiness.
Hello. I'm good with that one. Nothing else
Bada
to
bing,
say.
bada boom.